Hey everyone, in today's video, I'm going to be going over what I believe is one of the most powerful Anomaly Power Pyromancer builds. Now, I'm saying this is because, just look at it, I'm absolutely demolishing bosses. I'm taking chunks of their health away in an instance, and it all just feels kind of too easy at this point. Like, there's no challenge involved whatsoever. Because not only does this build do a ton of damage, it also works phenomenal with teammates because as you're doing crazy amounts of damage and you're also debuffing enemies. You're pretty much a support that does a ridiculous amount of damage. You kind of got the 2-in-1 effect there. And then on top of that, it's just really fun to use because of the skills. They're just amazing for taking out large groups of enemies or shooting a laser beam through 10 guys at once. Like, you're going to be doing tons of damage, and I don't think you'll ever get bored of this build. But anyways, that's enough of that there. Let's dive into the build, starting off with the skills. So for our first skill, we're going to go with Thermal Bomb for a handful of reasons. There's a little node, or not a little node, a big node in the class tree that increases our anomaly power by 12% for 10 seconds after activating this skill. It's not a lot, but every little bit will add up. But the main reason we want this is because we can use this to debuff enemies like ridiculous, especially bosses. If we use the mod Branded, enemies afflicted by the skill Thermal Bomb receive 30% more damage. Very straightforward, and 30% is quite a bit, but it's not a crazy amount. But I have a way to make this ridiculous though. If we combine this here with the mod Double Fun, here it is. Thermal Bomb will target 2 enemies at once, so one use and it'll hit 2 targets. But the thing is, when you're fighting a boss, he's the only target. So when you use Thermal Bomb, he actually gets hit with 2 of them. So it's kind of like him taking 60% increased damage. Now, that's pretty strong now for Thermal Bomb. But if we also throw on the mod Fire Frenzy, we can activate Thermal Bomb a second time. So that boss is going to be taking 120% increased damage. That's obviously if he is the only one there and there's no other little side enemies around him. So that kind of helps out a lot with the burst damage. Also, when you're just running around the map taking out all the grunt level enemies, when you use Thermal Bomb on them, it'll kind of spread out. So it'll hit one enemy, then obviously hit another one because it'll hit 2 enemies. And then after you kill them, it's going to explode, dealing a lot of AoE damage. So it's got a nice little 2-in-1 use. It's good for ad clearing or taking out really strong enemies. Now that there is perfect. This is the one we're going to want to use first, debuff the enemies, and get our small little anomaly power boost. Now for the second skill, we're going to go with Phaser Beam. This one, I think this is probably one of my favorite skills in the game. You just shoot this absolute massive laser of a cannon. Now, this one actually has a few uses as well. In the class tree, we get a couple of big nodes activated. If we use Phaser Beam, it's going to increase our armor piercing, which isn't that important, by 45%, and our resistance piercing bonus by 45% for 10 seconds. Also, it's going to increase our armor by 45% as well for 10 seconds. These are just absolutely monstrous buffs. Now, Resistance Pierce is nice and all, you know, we have Resistance Pierce, so we're going to do more damage to heavily tanky enemies. But I'm also going to be using the mod Unstoppable Force. 50% of our Resistance Piercing bonus is going to turn into Anomaly Power, so that's going to be monstrous. Also, the skill by itself just does a ridiculous amount of damage. Like, for me, I'm at 2.155167 million, 2.1 million damage, basically, per laser beam. And obviously, that's without all of the buffs going and all of that there. The cooldowns on both of these skills, Thermal Bomb and Phaser Beam, they're not short, but they're not long. They're kind of in the medium category, because I have Thermal Bomb at 7.7 seconds and Phaser Beam at 8.2 seconds. But don't worry, I have another way of reducing the cooldown, because after we use all of our skills, our cooldowns do get lowered by a little bit, which kind of helps us with rapidly casting these out. But anyways, back to the Phaser Beam, there is another mod I actually have equipped called Ascension Champion. Whenever we use the skill Phaser Beam, we actually get a 20% anomaly power increase for each enemy we hit, stacking up to 5 times and lasting 10 seconds. So even if we're fighting just one enemy like the boss and we use Phaser Beam on him, we're going to get 20% anomaly power. That's just by using the skill on him. So it's going to do a lot of damage, and it's going to charge up our anomaly power. So all of our other skills maybe some other weapon mods are going to do more damage. It's kind of like you use Thermal Bomb to weaken the enemies, you know, it'll even kill them as well, but it's mainly used to weaken the enemies, charge yourself up, and then use Phaser Beam, which is pretty much charged up from the Thermal Bombs. Then, let's get into the last skill now, because surprisingly, Phaser Beam isn't our highest damaging skill. It's actually our second highest damaging skill, but it can still hit for some crazy numbers. But our highest damaging skill is Eruption. Oh my god, this thing just clears groups of enemies, demolishes bosses, it does it all. The only problem I've had with this is it does have a little bit of a long cooldown. Personally, for me, I have it at 16.6 seconds. Obviously, if you get some better armor, you upgrade your character a little bit more, you could probably get this reduced by a little bit more, but it has its balance though. The 16.6 seconds for the amount of damage we can do with this it's phenomenal. It's fully worth it. Because it takes out large groups of enemies, weaker, medium, elites, captains, no problem. Even bosses, it kind of just breezes by them, like it just demolishes them with ease. Now, the way this skill works pretty much is we use Thermal Bomb to debuff them, Phaser Beam to increase our anomaly power because of the mod Ashen Champion, and then we just finish it up with Eruption. That's going to be our combo for when we're fighting bosses. So I guess that kind of covers everything for the skills now. So let's hop on over to the weapon. And for that, I'm actually going with the Final Penance. Now, the reason I'm going with this is because I just had an amazing roll with the mods. Mage's Rage is going to be our primary big top tier mod that we're going to want. Critical shots grant a 10% anomaly power bonus for 15 seconds, stacking up to 4 times. So that's pretty much a 40% anomaly power bonus for 15 seconds. Now, the reason why this is so important, because, you know, obviously the anomaly power increase is just for bosses. Like, we're not going to need this when we're dealing with grunt level enemies, elites, captains. Well, elites and captains, it'll help out a bit, but we just kind of breeze through those enemies so quick and easy. This mod's really not going to make a difference for them. The difference it makes is when we're dealing with bosses, because it's going to be really easy to activate. Landing critical shots, so you got to land some headshots. That sounds a little difficult, but when the boss's head is the size of your character, like, I think you can land 4 crit shots on him fairly easily, especially when we have, for me, I have a double gun, 60 rounds in the magazine, and I only have to land 4 of those shots on his head to get a 40% anomaly power increase. That is absolutely monstrous. Now, the other mods you'll want to use, if you can get these mods, if you can't, it won't make a huge difference, but obviously it does help. Fortress. Shots are going to increase our anomaly power and our resistance by 5%, stacking up to 3 times. And then at maximum stacks, the buff is doubled. So we get 30% increased armor and resistance. And we also get a 20% damage increase for 10 seconds. And it has like a 0.2 second cooldown. I don't really know what the point is of having a 0.2 second cooldown, but that doesn't really matter. So for this one, you don't need to land crit shots. You just shoot the guy straight in the chest. That's about it. It's really simple, really easy to go. And this one actually helps out more with the grunt level enemies because it's going to increase our anomaly power, our resistance, and our just overall damage. And it doesn't really require any aiming. Like, we can just run firing from the hip, put some shots into some people's chests, boom, 20% damage buff and 30% increased armor and resistance. Very straightforward. Then the third mod I got is Omen. Absolutely amazing as well. So basically, we just shoot this huge ass harpoon out of our gun every 4 seconds because it's got a 4-second cooldown. It inflicts bleed and deals 807,000 damage. And it also increases the damage that person takes by 10% just for 3 seconds. So it's not that long, a small little window. That's why I'm saying this is more of a bonus mod. Very nice to have on, but not absolutely needed. If you can't get either 2 of these mods, I would just say try to grab something that not increases your damage, that does damage by itself, like Claymore Torrent or Ultimate Storm Whip, just something that does like mod damage pretty much, or increases your anomaly power. That's kind of the main 2, but it doesn't really matter. The main one you want is Mage's Rage. Now for the attributes, mine are pretty horrible. You'll obviously want to have status power because that's going to increase the damage of the Phaser Beam, increase the damage of Burn, because Burn also does quite a bit of damage with this setup because of how high our anomaly power reaches. But if you can't get that, not a problem. the main thing that you need is Mage's Rage. That's about it. Obviously, I have Skill Life Leech as well, which is going to help out, making us more tanky, be able to take more damage, and just survive more hits and stuff. So that kind of covers everything for the weapon. You need Mage's Rage, just that one mod. If you can get that one mod, you will be set. So let's hop on over to the armor now. And we'll start off with the headpiece. For that, I'm going with Ronin's Amigasa, which comes absolutely perfect. Since it's a legendary item, the attributes and mods are locked in, which is what I really like. The attributes we have are perfect: Anomaly Power, Cooldown Reduction, and Status Power. Those are going to be your top tier attributes you'll want to get, but they're not as important as the mods. Mods will always come first before attributes, but I just wanted to get that out of the way. Now the mod that comes with it is Arms and Anomaly. Critical shots are going to increase our anomaly power. Well, for me, it's 209,000 for 6 seconds with a 6-second cooldown. So this actually goes hand in hand with Mage's Rage, increasing our anomaly power with those critical shots. And this is going to be really important again for when we're dealing with those big boss level enemies, because we're going to breeze through all of the weaker enemies, no problem, and we'll want to rack up as much anomaly power as possible for those boss level enemies to get rid of them as fast as possible. Now the second mod I swapped it out for is Ashen Champion. This is the mod I was talking about earlier when I was talking about the skill Phaser Beam. Whenever we use the skill Phaser Beam, every enemy we hit, we increase our anomaly power for each enemy hit by 20% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. Now this is going to work phenomenal all around. Hitting multiple enemies, get a huge anomaly power increase, which is just going to increase the damage of all of our skills, and the burn status effect, which will slowly, I don't even want to say slowly, because it eats away at enemies pretty quickly. So this here, amazing mod, definitely needed for this build. Then the bonus mod that came with it is Pompeii 2. The skill Eruption can be activated one more time before it goes into cooldown. So we basically spam out the skill Eruption to instantly kill bosses. That's what it is. We use Thermal Bomb, Phaser Beam, and just unload like a bunch of volcanoes into the boss until he absolutely dies. So that covers everything for the helmet. Now let's go on to the chest piece. And for that, I'm going with the Upper Robe of the Lava Lich set. So we are going to use the full set of the Lava Lich set, which increases the damage of Eruption by 100% and decreases its cooldown by 30%. That's why this skill does so much damage, a 100% damage increase. Now the attributes for it, they're not perfect, but 2 out of 3, I want to say 2.5 out of 3 is really great. Anomaly power, status power, and skill life leech to keep us at full health pretty much the entire time. Now the mod I swapped out for is Unstoppable Force. That's going to increase our anomaly power by 50% of our resistance piercing bonus, which makes an enormous difference when I get into the class tree. It's basically just going to give us a ridiculous amount of anomaly power, very straightforward. Then the mod that comes with it is Giga Blast. This is going to increase the radius of eruption, so that's how we're going to be able to take out larger groups of enemies, because the radius of the blast radius of it is increased by 100%. So now it's just stupidly wide, taking out tons and tons of enemies. Then the bonus mod I got for it is Increased Duration. Now this is going to increase the duration of eruption, so it's going to do damage for a longer period of time, which again just increases the damage of the skill pretty much. So that's everything for the chest piece now, and we'll move on to the legs. And we're going with the second piece of the Lava Lich set, the Lower Robe of the Lava Lich. The same attributes again: anomaly power, status power, and skill life leech. The mod that comes with it is Size Matter. The blast radius of Phaser Beam is increased by 100%. This one is actually not that important because it's just not going to increase our damage or anything. Yes, we do have a wider Phaser Beam, being able to hit more enemies, but it's just not that important. So I just left that there because it's better than the other mod that comes with it. But the other mod I swapped out for is Fire Frenzy. Thermal Bomb we'll be able to activate Thermal Bomb an additional time, making more enemies take 30% increased damage. Just very straightforward and helpful. Now the bonus mod I got for it is a waste. Like, we're not even going to be using the skill Heat Wave. I have Ride the Wave, so we're kind of, I don't want to say 2 mods, I want to say 1.5 mods down, and this skill still, and this build still clears bosses so easily and quickly. Now let's move on to the gloves. Now the gloves, I got the third piece, the final piece that we need of the Lava Lich set. Now the attributes are a little bit different. Max health is still a very helpful thing. It's just going to make us more tanky, more, I don't want to say indestructible, but we're just not going to die pretty much with this setup. Then the second attribute is status power, and second and third attributes are status power and cooldown reduction. Very straightforward, not much to it. Now the mod that comes with these gloves though, which is what I really love, is Etna, E-T-N-A. I don't know how to pronounce it, but yeah, that one. This is going to give us another eruption skill to use. So we can use the eruption skill 3 times before it goes into cooldown. So we're bursting enemies like crazy. Then the other mod I swapped it out for is branded. I was mentioning this again earlier before. Enemies that are hit by the skill Thermal Bomb are going to take 30% increased damage. And we can use Thermal Bomb a bunch of times. Well, not a bunch of times, 2 times actually. But I have a mod that makes each use of Thermal Bomb hit 2 enemies. So in total, we can make 4 enemies take 30% increased damage, and it has a fairly short cooldown. Now the bonus mod that comes with it is actually really shit. It's Martial Arts, reduces the cooldown of our melee skill by 50%, so this is another mod slot that pretty much got burned away, so we're about 2.5 mods down, and we're still doing really good. And lastly, we have the boots. Now, I'm going with the Torturous Foot gear, again, because the only thing I care about are mods. The attributes, I have max health, which isn't too bad. Healing received, which, I'm going to count it as kind of bad, because skill life leech would be better, but whatever. And then close range damage, which is useless. But the mod that comes with it is Anomaly Echo. Whenever we use a skill, we're going to get increased, whenever we use a skill, we're going to increase our firepower and anomaly power for 6 seconds. Very easy, straightforward, just activate a skill and boost our damage. Then the second mod I swapped it out for, the other mod I swapped out for is Double Fun. The skill Thermal Bomb can now affect 2 targets at the same time. So we use it, that Thermal Bomb's going to split off, hit 2 enemies separately, boom. We basically doubled our Thermal Bombs with this one skill. Well, when we're dealing with regular grunt level enemies. Then the bonus mod, I'm actually pretty happy with this here because it does make us more tanky, is Emergency Stance. Attain the Golem protective effects for 4 seconds whenever your health drops below 30%, and it has a 10-second cooldown. Now the Golem effect, I'm pretty sure it reduces all incoming damage by 65% or 35%. I can't remember which percent it is exactly, but it's just a huge buff all around. Now I actually really like this mod because it's always good to have at least one mod that's going to increase your protection all around but with whatever build. It's just always good to have one kind of tanky mod. So that covers everything for the armor now, so let's hop on over to the class tree. And before I get into the class tree, I just want to thank the sponsors of this video, Deving. If you don't have enough time, patience, or good enough teammates to get the gear and items you want in a certain game, that's perfectly alright, because Deving has you covered. Go to their website, www.deving.net, to help get boosted in games like Destiny 2, Division 2, Outriders, and many more. They'll make sure you get your characters leveled up, best setups, guns with high rolls, and much more. The boost works with account sharing as well. They also give you the option to choose exactly what you want them to get for you in that game without the use of cheats or bugs. This is a trustworthy site with over 3,000 reviews on Trustpilot and having a 4.9 out of 5-star rating, so you know these guys are good. The site has been running for many years with a large variety of payment methods. You can use the code DIVINE to get a 15% discount on all services. If you have any questions, you can always contact an operator on the website to help you out. A link to their website will be in the description down below for anyone interested. That's everything for today's sponsor by Deving. Again, thank you for sponsoring this video. Alright guys, let's go over the class tree now. So we're actually going to start off with the bottom branch here because the middle branch earlier on, it doesn't really offer us any damage. It offers more health, skill life leech, a bit of cooldown, armor, just more protection stuff. But we're really good on protection, like on armor, resistance, survivability wise, so I went to the bottom tree for more damage. Increased anomaly power, increased our skill damage against marked enemies, more anomaly power, more skill damage against marked enemies, anomaly power, then increasing our weapon damage, which is useless because it's an anomaly power build, and anomaly power by 5%, so that there comes a little bit in handy. Then more anomaly power, and then the big node here at the bottom, the last node that we get at the bottom of the tree, with fire and anomaly. So whenever we activate eruption or thermal bomb, we get our anomaly power increased by 12% for 10 seconds. Now, it's obviously not a lot, but again, every little bit will help. So now we'll start to go up the tree. So we have Extinction, increase our damage by 20% against enemies below 30% health. That's not too bad, pretty nice. Some extra max health, increased resistance, more max health, skill life leech, which again is going to help out survivability. Just a bunch of stuff over here increasing our survivability until we get to the end for more damage stuff. Another max health, skill life leech, and then this one here is really solid. This one's going to increase our armor by 45% after we activate Phaser Beam for 10 seconds. Now, our cooldown on Phaser Beam is below 10 seconds, so we're going to be able to keep this activated the entire time. Just a massive, massive buff. Going to the next one, this one, Fuel for the Embers, going to double our skill life leech when under 30% of max health. So this also goes hand in hand with that golem mod I was talking about. It's on the boots right over here. Emergency stance. Attain golem, the protective golem effect for 4 seconds whenever our health drops below 30%. So when our health drops below 30%, like we're close to dying, we get the golem effect, increasing our armor, resistance, we're just not taking any damage. And then we also get our skill life leech doubled, which pretty much we're just going to shoot back all the way to our max health. We're going to be unkillable with a lot of skill life leech, just healing everything up, never dying. Then we got increased damage against enemies afflicted by burn, because our skills are going to be spreading burn like crazy. So this is going to be very helpful. A reduced cooldown node for the Phaser Beam skill, reducing the cooldown by 15%, very solid. And then the last skill at the, node, Magma Elemental. Activating Ignite skills increases our armor piercing by 45% and our resistance piercing by 45% as well for 10 seconds. Now this is activated by Phaser Beam, and the reason this is so important is obviously resistance piercing bonus. We're going to be able to go through those heavily armored enemies a lot easier, but it's mainly because of the mod Unstoppable Force that I have on my chest piece. 50% of we increase our anomaly power by 50% of our resistance piercing bonus. So not only does this give us 45% resisting piercing bonus, but it also gives us 22.5% increased anomaly power. You like that there? Little quick maths, but very, very solid. So we got the bottom here grabbing a bunch of damage nodes to increase our anomaly power and all of that there. Then we go up to the middle branch here, a bunch of survivability nodes increasing our health, resistance, skill life leech, and then at the end here is more for the damaging nodes. Now that covers everything for the class tree, so let's hop on over to the packs tree now. Now we're obviously going to go with the Pyromaniac section because this is all more anomaly power versus the gun blazer. I mean, it says gun blazer, so this is more of the firepower stuff. So for the first node, we're going to grab Melting Point. It increases our resistance piercing bonus by 15% when above 80% health, and 30% when below 40% health. So we're not really going to be below 40% health that often, so we're not going to get the 30% resistance piercing bonus, but rather the 15% resistance piercing bonus all the time. Now the next one is Master Exploder. Explosive skill damage is increased by 100% of our resistance pierce bonus. So the other node before this is going to help out by that. They're increasing the damage of Thermal Bomb and Eruption. And also, I know we just went over the class tree, but I can't stress the importance of this node, Magma Elemental. We're going to increase our resistance piercing bonus by 45% for 10 seconds. So that increases our resistance piercing bonus, our anomaly power, and also adds damage to our skills Thermal Bomb and Eruption because of this this node here. It's just phenomenal. We always need a lot of resistance pierce, so we're trying to grab as much as we can. Then the second node, this is what helps out with all of our cooldowns. Reduce all skills cooldown by 4 seconds when all skills are on cooldown, and this itself has a 3-second cooldown. That's a lot of cooldowns, but yeah, reducing all skills by 4 seconds. So this is what allows me, as you can see in the footage, to just spam my skills left and right. Like, I'll always have a skill ready to use, or if I don't, it's usually a like 1 to 2 second delay, but we're going to be able to spam our skills, which is phenomenal. Then the next node, Backdraft, another crazy node. Your anomaly power is increased by 30% for every skill on cooldown. Again, this leads back to why we want to use Thermal Bomb first, then Phaser Beam second, so then we have 2 skills on cooldown. So in total, we're going to have a 60% anomaly power increase, and that's going to help out for the skill Eruption. That's another reason why it's going to do so much damage, because while those 2 skills are on cooldown, our anomaly power is increased by 60%, and we're just letting those volcanoes rip back to back to back, because we can cast 3 of them. Then the last node, Trigger Sequence. Activating an explosive skill increases the damage of the next explosive skill by 25%. The buff stacks up to 3 times, after which it starts anew. Again, everything kind of just goes back to why we go Thermal Bomb, Phaser Beam, and Eruption. Because we activate Thermal Bomb, we can activate it twice. So this skill, because of this node, it stacks up 2 times, so we're at a 50% damage buff for the next explosive skill. Actually, no, we're at 2 stacks out of 3. And then right when we use Eruption, that's going to count as 1, so we're going to be at 3 stacks. But we can use Eruption 3 times before it goes on to cooldown. So 2 Thermal Bombs, 1 Eruption, and then the second Eruption is going to do 75% more damage. That is just insane, just ridiculous. And then afterwards, we have 1 more Eruption left, so we'll use that 1 Eruption, and then it basically starts anew again. So the Eruption, then the 2 Thermal Bombs are going to do damage, and then after we do a full combo again, Thermal Bomb, Phaser Beam, the first Eruption is going to do 75% increased damage. Everything here is just increasing our damage or reducing our cooldown. That's about the whole gist of it. So that covers everything for the Pax tree. Now let's go over the Ascension tree. Now, obviously you're going to want to grab everything anomaly related. Anomaly power, resistance pierce, status power, and anomaly damage. I skipped out on skill life leech just because I thought grabbing some armor and resistance would be a little bit better to have on you, but obviously that's up to you. You can go and grab the skill leech, but I'll save that one for later on. And then in the prowl list, the only one we really want is the cooldown reduction. Now 5.5 seconds again isn't a whole lot, but every little bit does matter. So with this build, guys, you'll be able to clear all of the pod rescues, all of the trials, and you'll have a blast playing with other people as well. It's just a fun and effective build all around. So that covers everything for today's video. Now, I'd like to give a big thanks to the members of my channel for supporting me on my videos and the future ones to come. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.